Will you go up, Bruno, or shall I? Take 1 minute. Have you all enjoyed your lunch? I hope it was very good. I suppose this is the dessert of the Odesa talk. And clearly the best panel. I hope there are going to be more numerous people here soon, but let's kick off. This panel will deal with the Black Sea and Europe's eastern flank, mitigating risk, solving conflicts. And a disclaimer almost immediately, we will not mitigate any risks here today, and we will not solve any conflicts. But what we have at this panel is something we haven't had before in the previous panels, which is a viewpoint of Crimean Tatars, a viewpoint of Turkey, with a viewpoint of Romania, 3 major players in the Black Sea region. My name is Rikard Jozwiak. I'm the Brussels correspondent for Radio Free Europe, or Radio Swobodna Europa, as it's known here. I learned very quickly one thing in journalism school, and it was the only thing I learned. That was the teacher told me that a good journalist have 2 ears, 1 mouth. That means that a good journalist should listen twice as much as they speak. So I will not really make much of an introduction, but I will introduce our speakers instead, who are the ones that can actually provide interesting things to say. To my immediate left here, we have George Magheru, long-term diplomat to the Romanian MFA. You are an advisor to the Romanian Foreign Minister. You've been a diplomat for almost 30 years. Then we have Mr. Burçin Gönenli, Deputy Director General for NATO and Euro-Atlantic Security at the Turkish MFA, and also previously at the Turkish Permanent Representation in NATO.
Yes.
And then, of course, the Honorable Refat Chubarov, the leader of the Crimean Tatar people, both worldwide, in Ukraine, the chairman of Mejlis, and also a member of the Verkhovna Rada. George, I will start with you. We heard previously in the tour de force of Mr. Ben Hodge that it's time for Romania to step up when it comes to the Black Sea. You should be really the key partner right now when it comes to NATO, but also in general in the Black Sea. Why are you not yet there? How long will it take you? And how will you do it?
Well, thank you for a very easy question. I will start from, how to say, rather detoured angle, because I was thinking now of an old Singaporean ambassador whom I had the privilege to meet this summer. Singapore, as you know, is not a very big country, the contrary. But I asked him about the risks in Southeast Asia and how does he think Singapore will manage. And he gave me a very old Chinese saying of his wisdom. He said, standing on your own feet. Standing on your own feet, taking care of the East and the West, and North and South, the threats around. Now, if you ask a Romanian about its stance in NATO and the Black Sea, I think the meaning of our membership to NATO is learning to stand on our feet, because this will also bring strength to our contribution to NATO. And we are doing this together. If Lieutenant General Hodges mentioned Romania, I don't think he did it in a sense of what is the usual competitive, how to say, run up for the first place on the podium, but it's related to the commitment he knows that Romania has ever since they started to try to join NATO. And we were the first to join the AAPC in '94. I mean, it's more than 25 years since we have tried, and we have managed to join NATO. Then you have the 2% commitment, which was also mentioned earlier in the morning. You have the Patriot system, which was mentioned. You have the strategic partnership between Romania and the United States. So I think what was said this morning by the General was related to concrete facts. We are in a process of consolidating these facts. If this brings an added value to the alliance, it also serves our own national interest. What we are trying to do, and we've been trying to do even before 2014, was to bring the limelight on the Black Sea. And this we have been trying to do not only in NATO, but also in the European Union. If you would allow, I want to make the following point. We are neighbors of Ukraine. I think we have the lengthiest border of the European Union and NATO with Ukraine, and with Moldova, by the way. It's the single EU-NATO border of the Republic of Moldova. I mean, one of the conclusions of today's debate is the importance of Ukraine for the security, not only for the whole region of the Black Sea, but for the Euro-Atlantic community. Whatever greater stake in the security, stability, integrity, and sovereignty of Ukraine can have any other country than its closest neighbor, related and bound by such strong links. This is one thing. The stake is very high, so we are interested in the success of the reform processes in Ukraine. We know it's difficult because we've gone through this road and we are still going through it. It's a fateful moment because it's 5 years since the Maidan. It's 5 years now in March since the illegal annexation of Crimea, and you have, how to say, two very important political moments ahead of you: the elections, or one, I don't know. What I want to say, if I can, we are having now the presidency of the European Union. A lot has been said here about a NATO strategy for the Black Sea, and I have here a joint paper by Ukrainian Center for Disarmament, New Strategy Center of Romania, and the foundation headed by General Hodges. And he has written the conclusions to this joint study. And it is precisely related to the necessity of having an active reaction of NATO, not to be reactive, but NATO to be the one who generates, establishes the rules of the game in this region. Naturally, for us, this is essential. It's and it's a Romanian-Ukrainian study. It's quite interesting that we have gone with our joint reflection there. On the European Union side, we have yesterday was concluded a meeting on resilience, strategic communication, hybrid warfare in Bucharest, with the Commissioner for Security, Mr. King. Antonio Misiroli was there. And actually, what was discussed there in Bucharest was also what was discussed here related to Stratcom, hybrid wars, and so on. I think Romania was the first to put the issue of resilience in the Black Sea 3 years ago. We had a seminar at that time. Antonio Misiroli was director of the European Institute for Security Studies. Now he is in NATO, as you well know. This is one of the highways on which we want to direct our presidency for the months to come. The other one is on the Eastern Partnership. We have several ministerial meetings in Romania. One of them is related to communication and digital industry, which is very interesting because this initiative wants to harmonize the internal EU with the Eastern partners in such a future-oriented industry. This is very important. And what we try to do in the Eastern Partnership is precisely to contribute to this harmonization. We have other initiatives in the Black Sea, also to the European Union. In the Black Sea Synergy, we want to have a meeting, a high-level meeting on innovation, so the research ministers. This has never been done. So everything to try to stimulate our partners here in the region. Now, I think I have energy. I have to mention energy and the fact that the Black Sea is one of the greatest paradoxes in this part of in Europe, because we are facing a clogging of a potentially very rich space connectivity, linking Eurasia to Europe, linking the seas, but at the same time we are faced with this freezing or protraction of the potential of development. And here we have to take into account the political, the strategic, the military, the economic, the development, the political evolution of the countries, and so on. So I think it's already too long an answer for your question, but I just tried to encompass a little bit this region which has such a long past. What we try to do is to open up. We are not going to finish the business till the 30th of June or when we finish our presidency. What we try to do is to get a value added which has to be continued. We will pursue it in NATO, we will pursue it in the European Union, we will pursue it in the region, but we only have 3 months left as the chair. But inshallah, we shall do whatever we can afterwards also.
Mr. Magheru, you mentioned Moldova there, and that's
Yes.
quite interesting, because we have talked about different conflicts around the Black Sea, and there's one we actually haven't mentioned yet, which is Transnistria, which is not too far from here, in fact. When you see what's happening in the Sea of Azov, when you see what happened to Crimea, are you worried as a Romanian about what can happen if that frozen conflict becomes unfrozen?
I will start with Crimea. On the 27th of February, there was an op-ed in The Guardian, which I recommend to you, signed by 11 ministers of foreign affairs from Europe and Canada. One of the items there related to the situation of the Crimean Tatars. I recommend this article in The Guardian because I think it's a summary of everything which was discussed here these two days. And specific mention was there made on the human rights situation, condition in Crimea, the problem of the Tatars, the religious minorities, and so on, and the non-Russian Orthodox. So I wanted to make this point, and I wanted to make it at the beginning. Now, going back to Transnistria. Being Romanians, we have witnessed the history of this territory for quite a long time. The Transnistrian conflict was I think it was the mother of the protracted conflicts, because it was the first one to implode or explode with the dismantling of the former Soviet Union, if you remember the war in '92. It was a pattern-setting conflict, but we have to remember that we had the Nagorno-Karabakh in the Caucasus. Then we had an encouraged or fueled up civil war in Georgia, which led practically again to Russian intervention. And that was during the Gamsa-Kurdia period. We had Abkhazia and Ossetia. And what was the outcome? I remember very well, because I was in the NATO summit in Bucharest, when we pushed for membership action plan for Ukraine and Georgia, Romania, not only Romania, the United States was there. And then in August, you had the Russian intervention in Georgia, with the results you know. And I think yesterday the Georgian deputy minister mentioned that the Georgian intervention was in its turn a rehearsal for the intervention in Crimea. It might very well be so. The Transnistrian conflict, I think, has to be studied as you have to study all the protracted conflicts in the Black Sea, look at its specificity and the way you apply hybrid war, strategic communication, the way you apply disinformation, the way you apply ethno-engineering. I don't know if this is a sanctified term, but I think it's a really operational fact in those specialized in the field. You have there how to say, army depots of the 14th Army. You have a reservoir of military wear which is not justified in any way by the situation on the ground. It is a leftover from the Cold War, but as you may see, it is, how to say, used as another factor in delaying the internal drive of the countries in the Black Sea to decide upon themselves as to the path they are going to take. I think you can make here also a parallel with Ukraine, because it is clear, evident that the internal energies of Ukraine are drawn towards European and Euro-Atlantic integration. At the same time, you have to do this with one hand tied at your back, with the conflict in Crimea and the illegal occupation in Crimea and the conflict in the Donbass, and at the same time you have to do the necessary reforms related to your getting closer to European Union and NATO and so on. So if you take into account Moldova, which is a much smaller country, where you had multiple attempts to change the demographic, Ukraine had the Holodomor and so on. We know about the deportation of the Moldovans, Romanian-speaking, the Romanophones in Moldova, deportation in Kazakhstan. I saw them there when I was last in Kazakhstan. There are still survivors of that period when they were deported in order to change the demographic balance and so on. So I won't give you a solution to the Transnistrian problem, but I think I can give you a picture of the pattern and the role of the protracted conflicts in preserving or freezing the geopolitical balance, because we are in a race against time, and I think time is in favor of the opening and the transatlantic, because we are speaking here of democracy and rule of law and good governance and free and open societies, and I think this is the trend. But on the other side, you have the resisting, how to say, pincers, or keeping, trying to keep to the frozen existing or even reversing trend of what's going on. Thank you.
Mr. Gönenli, your country, Turkey, is probably, well, it is the key ally, NATO key ally in the Black Sea region, but it's also the country, the entire Black Sea region, that actually has really good relations with Russia. This seems sometimes a bit like a mismatch if you ask some of your NATO allies. So how many circles can you square, and how many fences can Turkey sit on when it comes to the Black Sea?
Thank you. This is the moment to deserve the excellent hospitality extended by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, GMF, and Boumbourasfoundation, and thank you to all of you. Turkey is with Ukraine. Our position vis-à-vis the illegal and illegitimate annexation of Crimea is crystal clear, ironclad. We will not recognize it. We will continue to assist and work with Ukraine, along with other littorals, not only in military terms, through military cooperation, but also in non-military terms. And our hearts and minds are also with our Tatar brothers and sisters. This is the 5th anniversary of the illegal and illegitimate annexation of Crimea, but this is also the 75th anniversary of the deportation of Tatar community. So we also should keep this in mind, and we are voicing and defending the rights of the Tatar community at every level, at every platform. There should be no doubt about it. Coming to Turkey's policies, including our relations vis-à-vis Russia, there are some principles, and I will try to explain them by throwing some keywords. One is solidarity. In standing up against the challenges we are facing to the rules-based system, from the north at Kola Peninsula down to Black Sea, onwards to Caucasus, and then to Syria and Eastern Mediterranean, solidarity among allies and cooperation with partners is key. There should be no doubt about it. Currently, the alliance's posture, deterrence and defense posture in Black Sea is based on solidarity, is based on standing naval forces to be backed up by littoral states and by non-littoral allies. Just to give you some numbers, in 2014, the standing naval forces appeared were present in the Black Sea for 43 days. This increased in 2017 to 82 days. In 2018, it was close to 120 days. So NATO is there. NATO is permanently at the Black Sea by virtue of presence of Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey. But do we have to follow a tit-for-tat policy vis-à-vis Russia? I don't think there is such a eagerness among allies, because we are trying to give the message. We are trying to give the message in a strategic way, and we are trying to create effects rather than one by one matching the challenge we are having from multiple directions. We don't have one challenge across the alliance I'm speaking about. And Turkey is doing its part in underpinning NATO's deterrence and defense posture. As we speak, Turkey is carrying out the Blue Motherland exercise with 100 plus pieces of ships in all the seas around Turkey, represented in an equal manner. Turkey will pay port visits, 40 port visits, including in Black Sea. Turkey is maintaining a permanent presence in Black Sea, submarines and surface units, MPAs, military patrol aircraft. So we are shouldering our responsibility. But in the meantime, as I said at the previous session, when we look at the deployment figures of allies from outside the region, the trend is not promising. US is fortunately and is expectedly leading there, but there is a slight drop in the numbers, and but there are other allies, and again we should do. If we are to do something, we should do it collectively and to demonstrate solidarity. The second word I'd like to share is holistic approach. We cannot only focus on specific regions. We need to have a holistic approach which covers Baltic Sea, Black Sea, and Eastern Mediterranean. NATO is a maritime alliance. It's not a land alliance only, and freedom of navigation is essential. But I haven't heard anyone referring to Eastern Mediterranean, because Black Sea and Eastern Mediterranean should be pronounced in the same sentence, I guess. So we should have this holistic approach. And in terms of holistic approach and solidarity, we should also not forget that we don't have one source of challenge. The alliance is faced with multiple challenges from multiple directions. So as we underpin and uphold NATO's deterrence and defense posture, we should do so also against other sources of threats, including terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. This is very important. So we cannot decouple threats. The third word I'd like to float is predictability. Predictability is one of the biggest or most important issues, because lack of it brings along uncertainty, risk of escalation, and clashes that can go in multiple stray directions. What we should do in this moment is to underpin predictability, and in that regard I should recall NATO's dual-track approach to vis-à-vis Russia, deterrence and defense on the one hand, but engagement on the other. We all want Crimea to return back to Ukraine. This is our position, this is our collective position, this is Turkey's position. But in pursuing our goal, we should also be strong. We should have airtight solidarity, but we should also give the message to the other side. So this is why it is very important to have predictability, and there was a reference in the previous panel to mechanisms in the Black Sea. I don't want to sound too idealistic, but in early 2000s, Turkey led the way for some cooperative security mechanisms in the Black Sea. Some of them are not being used because of the current situation, but some are being actually used, and I think they are contributing. Two of them is, one of them is the Black Sea, Operation Black Sea Harmony, carried out by the Turkish Navy, which is open to all littoral allies. The function it's serving is providing a recognized maritime picture, including to NATO, which is very important for safety and security in the Black Sea. The second is the functioning forum is Black Sea Coast Guards Forum, which is regularly convening. And the third one is confidence building measures document This is annually chaired by one literal country, and this is tried to be implemented. So these are all used to communicate and engage. And by the way, in response to your question about Russia, we have relations with Russia. We have disagreements with Russia, but we have also common interests with Russia, including in Syria. So we are trying to compartmentalize our approach, but this does by no means imply a change in our strategic direction or a change in our very clear position about Crimea and our support to Ukraine. And the last, but not least, I would like to mention our partners. Ukraine and Georgia are our partners, are our literal neighbors in the Black Sea, and we are trying to work with them. We are working with them, both through NATO and bilaterally. This is not a matter of choice for Turkey. This is a requirement for all of us to have a stable, safe, and predictable environment in the Black Sea, which could and should pave the way to achieving our end state. I think I will stop here.
Mr. Klimkin mentioned the idea of a robust 24-hour Black Sea monitoring mission on the sea. Would that be something that Turkey would be willing to participate in?
Black Sea
monitoring mission. We have, a monitoring mission on the land right now.
You mean in Crimea?
For around Crimea, around Azov Sea.
We are trying to look at everything to a realistic angle, within the realm of the possible. Now, the monitoring mission, to my knowledge, I'm not an expert on it, but it's something agreed that also that enjoys the agreement of all sides, and it contributes, and it's doing a good job, and it is serving well. I don't know if extending it to Azov Sea is something realistic, and I don't know whether it would undercut the original monitoring mission itself. That's why it's something that we should be very careful about, and we should try to approach this question from various angles.
Thank you. Mr. Chubarov, the last 2 days here at the Odesa talks, you have heard people from Ukraine, from Georgia, from Turkey, Romania, EU, NATO, talking about their solidarity with Crimea. Do you think that is enough? And what do you want to tell them? What is your wish list for them, what they can do to make Crimea Ukrainian again?
Я буду говорити українською, треба дати можливість навушники. Я був би щасливий сказати про те, що наша солідарність достатня, і люди, які живуть в Криму, відчувають себе спокійними і в надіях на краще майбутнє. Але насправді, ви розумієте, це не так. Крим окупований Росією і зі всіма її наслідками для людей, які зберігають власну гідність, залишаються вірними українській державі, які просто не є лояльними до країни-окупанта. В той же час, я це дуже часто говорю, наша солідарність, вона достатня була і є для того, щоб зупинити подальшу агресію Росії проти України. Отже, наша солідарність, санкції і все інше, вони в змозі зупинити агресію. Але вони не в змозі змусити Росію повернутися в межі міжнародного права. Таким чином, відповідь на ваше запитання, наша солідарність, вона на сьогодні не є в такій мірі потужною, щоб Росія повернулася в межі міжнародного права. Це перше. По-друге, я думаю, що ми все ще знаходимося в стані неспроможності знайти максимально ефективні шляхи протидії російській агресії. І оця неспроможність знаходження таких ефективних шляхів, вона має свої негативні наслідки для людей, які живуть на окупованих територіях. 5 років російської окупації. 5 років, коли на певній території Росія максимально реалізує свої плани. Які це плани? Крим перетворюється в один із найміцніших військових фортецій Росії. Про це тут дуже багато говорилося. Отже, південно-східний фланг НАТО сьогодні має великі проблеми, оскільки на захопленому півострові найсучасна російська зброя, включаючи ракетно-зенітні комплекси, що досягають території країн-членів НАТО. Це перше. По-друге, я хотів би, щоб на це особливо ми звернули увагу. Я зроблю маленьку ремарку. Взагалі для кримських татар колесо історії повертається знову. Я не буду зараз далеко вас уводити під час першої анексії, 1783 рік. Я вам просто нагадаю Східну війну 1853-1856 роки. Пам'ятаєте, тоді ж теж була коаліція Велика Британія, Франція, Османська імперія, Сардинське королівство і війна, яка більшою частиною була на території Криму. Отже, після завершення цієї війни почалися потужні репресії проти кримських татар. І одразу після війни більше 100 тисяч кримських татар були витіснені з Криму тодішньою російською адміністрацією. Ці люди поїхали на територію тодішньої Османської імперії. Тому зараз ці кримські татари живуть в Констанці, в Румунії, 35-40 тисяч, Добруджі. Ці кримські татари живуть в Туреччині. От сьогодні Росія робить саме це. Я хочу говорити про людський вимір. Ми багато говоримо про геополітику, про виклики над глобальним світом. Але все це проходить через людські долі. Сьогодні Росія робить все для того, щоб вичавити нелояльних людей. А це кримські татари, етнічні українці. Люди, які не приймають окупацію, з точки зору Москви мають поїхати. Ну, Сталін депортував, а Путін хоче, щоб ці люди самодепортувалися. Але це півбіди. Росія переселяє своїх громадян на українську територію. За різними оцінками вже як мінімум до 500 тисяч людей, яких переселили з материкової Росії. Ви уявляєте, які будуть переговори щодо повернення Криму, щодо відновлення державного суверенітету України? Знову наші партнери сядуть з нами за стіл і будуть говорити про права людини, що ці люди вже там укорінилися, що треба знайти... Росія буде говорити про те, що права цих людей мають бути забезпечені. Це другий момент. Отже, заміщення населення йде. Третій момент – це те, що відбувається у свідомості людей, і особливо дітей, молоді. Ми нібито повернулися в часи Радянського Союзу. Хто старший, вони, ну, якщо хтось жив, або соціалістичного лагерю в Румунії, Болгарії, там були свої нюанси. Але я скажу, що цей режим, він гірше, він опасніше, ніж Радянський Союз. За радянські часи можна було би зайняти свою нішу, не виступати проти політики комуністичної партії, система за тобою могла наглядати, але ти міг проскочити. От ця система окупаційна російська, вона вимагає постійного підтвердження проявлення лояльності. Якщо ти не демонструєш лояльність, ти маєш знати, що колись ти можеш просто до тебе прийдуть. І останнє. Я про це дуже часто говорю. Як член парламенту України, я є членом парламентської асамблеї Організації Чорноморського економічного співробітництва. Це одна із маленьких, ну, відносно маленьких, вибачте, міжнародних організацій. 12 країн, 12 членів. От подумайте, з 12 членів, які входять в одну з міжнародних організацій, 4 члени мають територіальні проблеми, проблеми територіальної цілісності. Україна, Молдова, Грузія і Азербайджан. Це все Чорноморська, ну, трошки ширше, Чорноморсько-Каспійський регіон, можна сказати. Але вони всі ці проблеми мають або безпосередньо від Росії, або з залученням Росії. Я тут теж хочу повторити свою думку. Сталося так, що навколо російської агресії, тобто навколо України внаслідок російської агресії, світ максимально об'єднався, ніж це було при таких нападах чи конфліктах раніше. Світ ніколи так не об'єднувався, як об'єднався зараз навколо України. Так не було в Грузії у 2008 році, так не було в Придністров'ї, ну так не було при Нагорному Карабахі. І тому от світ зараз збереженням і посиленням цієї об'єднаності, він зобов'язаний знайти спосіб розв'язання цієї проблеми. І якщо світ знайде вирішення цієї питання, і світ зможе Росію поставити на місце, я говорю про право, на місці, тобто в межі міжнародного права, Росія повернеться. Це значить, цей ключик, він підійде і до Придністров'я, і до Грузії, і, можливо, до Нагорного Карабаху, там трошки складніше. Ну, там по-іншому, але там теж Росія. Вона розігрує свої інтереси. Тому, коли ми говоримо про солідарність, я завжди закликаю, щоб ця солідарність, вона далі перетворювалася в конкретні форми, які, реалізуючись, вони мають вже принести конкретні результати для тих людей, про територію яких ми говоримо. Я вам дуже дякую.
Mr. Chubarov, you have... Okay. Mr. Chubarov, you have next to you here a representative from Turkey, you have a representative from Romania, you have, in a sense, then representative from NATO and EU. What is the one thing they could do to help Crimea and Crimean Tatars right now? Something they can do right away?
Якщо хтось після моєї відповіді має іншу відповідь на таке питання, я б дуже просив би його це сказати, бо моя відповідь дуже песимістична. Поки зберігатиметься окупація Криму, і якщо щось там в якомусь місті можна буде що зробити, це буде лише внаслідок домовленості конкретної з Путіним. Кардинального ви нам нічого не зможете зробити, щоб допомогти. Але це не значить, що не треба постійно намагатися впливати на Росію. Це дуже важливо. Але кардинальна допомога – це вирішення кардинального питання деокупації Криму.
Okay, guys, it's now time. It's about 35 minutes. We're now going to open the floor for questions. A few housekeeping rules. Please present yourself and then also say to whom you address the question. It is a Q&A session, so we would prefer questions rather than comments, but comments are welcome as well, but keep them short. So, do we have any questions from the audience? Don't be shy. Maxim, here, at the front row.
Maxim Helko from Kiev. My question will be to the representative of Romania and Turkey. Given that the idea of NATO Black Sea fleet seems to be rather dead than alive, so do you see any prospects for regional security cooperation in the Black Sea between your countries and Ukraine and Georgia?
We are already cooperating with Ukraine and Georgia in the maritime domain. Basically, it's not necessarily through establishing a common flotilla or something like that. And this, as I said, this solidarity dimension is very important in that regard. And the standing naval forces is serving that purpose. But apart from this, for example, as Turkey, we are carrying out exercises. If I'm not wrong, Romania is also currently carrying out an exercise. And through port visits, etc., we are having permanent cooperation. We are also we have data exchange to have this recognized picture, not only in the maritime domain but also in the air domain. So there is cooperation underway. But just I'd like to underline one more thing in that regard in reference to the Honorable Mr. Chubarov's comments. He rightly underscored the importance of solidarity also. So, for example, when it comes to the situation that the Crimean Tatars find themselves in. It's not only Turkey, it's not only Romania, not only Ukraine, but we should try to demonstrate a joint effort in that regard. This is very important.
I think earlier the admiral of the Ukrainian fleet gave the answer. I mean, we have very close relations, military field with Ukraine, as we have with Georgia, and to the extent of my personal knowledge, this dialogue on the military security issue has started quite a long time ago, but ever since 2014 it has been strongly intensified. That's evident. I don't have to add more because we have specific areas of cooperation, including to NATO and so on, basically to NATO. Now, as to the issue of solidarity, I cannot but support what the head of the Crimean Mejlis and my Turkish colleagues were saying. But there is also a historical factor. The bulk of the Turco-Tatar community in Romania is in Dobruja and Constanța. We have here the secular figure of the Tatar community. In Romania, we have the Grand Mufti, who is a very, very distinguished scholar and promoter of moderate intellectual approach to Islam. And he has a real contribution to intercultural, interdenominational, interreligious dialogue. And I think we also have to take this into account into the people-to-people contacts in this part of the world. And I want here to refer also to my Turkish colleague on the holistic approach to our security environment it's not only the Baltic, the Black Sea, the Eastern Mediterranean. I was recently in Spain and discussing with the scholars in Elcano. This is the Royal Institute for International Studies, and one of the issues we raised on the Romanian side was we said, look, people don't like the South. And I told them, but people don't like the East either. How can we make to have the comprehensive approach, this holistic approach, both in NATO and EU on, circumspheric threats and to which we are subject and opportunities. Thank you.
But going back there as well, because this question was asked in the previous panel and it's relevant here as well. We have Romania, we have Bulgaria, we have Turkey, and we also have all NATO allies, and we have two partners who are very close to NATO in Georgia and Ukraine. Why doesn't NATO have a coherent Black Sea strategy, or have I missed something? These two...
May I?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm not a NATO
but I would
man.
like to hear the Turkish answer as well from you.
I'm not a NATO man as you are. So I will, I think the answer was given during this session yesterday and today's debate. I mean, as, let's say, a diplomat with rather a political background rather than a security man, it is evident that all these discussions are indicating that there is a reflection on several layers, and it's a reflection which is maturing. So, if we are not there yet, we are going that way. Mention was made this morning on the political decision-making process in the alliance. You have Article 4. And where we are, I know what Romania has done. We were discussing during the lunch break. I mean, if it was not Romania, I don't know who was in the Black Sea of the new member states. Turkey knows very well because we were supported by Turkey. We want to put the limelight on NATO. In the meantime, we had the 2014 Ukraine, the annexation, legal annexation of Ukraine. We were trying to put the limelight on the Black Sea before Crimea because we had all the other frozen conflicts we have just mentioned. before. I started with Transnistria, starting with Georgia, starting with 2008. I just said it before. So we were there trying to push forward. We are not, let's say, at that, but we are much further than we ever were. I think maybe the representatives of NATO here are in a better position to contradict or not.
Okay, that was the Romanian diplomatic answer, and it comes to Turkish diplomatic answer.
Actually, I guess what intrigued me when you asked your question is that I thought NATO had a coherent strategy in the Black Sea. We have our deterrence and defense posture agreed by 29 allies. We have our measures. We have our partnerships. And as a part of NATO, I'm saying this, and we are trying to back it up. We are trying to live up to our promises and trying to fulfill our commitments. There are some fine lines in that regard, as it was mentioned, for example, between the distinction between allies and partners. But nevertheless, all allies, including Turkey, are, I think, doing their best to contribute to our partners and to involve them also in the work underway in NATO through consultations. So there's an agreed, I think, way forward or agreed set of measures there for defense and deterrence purposes, obviously. But that's where I think the alliance, together with allies, is. The crucial question there is, in a 29-for-29 split, everyone should step up to the plate. Turkey, in its own capacity, Romania, Bulgaria, and our partners are doing what they can do. But as I said, there's an agreement, and it's up to each and every ally to contribute as they deem appropriate.
May I add something?
Yes, first Mr. Chubarov, he wanted to say something as well.
Дозвольте, як людині абсолютно не військовій, сказати наступне. Я би не розглядав би зростання ролі і відповідальності НАТО на Чорному морі виключно як військовий аспект. Інакше це просто приведе до такого суттєвого протистояння Росії, Альянсу. Я би це розглядав би у взаємодії зі всіма іншими формами, механізмами тиску на Росію, на які здатні члени НАТО, а також залучивши Європейський Союз. Ви знаєте, 3 роки тому президент Туреччини Таїп Реджеп Ердоган, звертаючись до, здається, генерального секретаря НАТО, я знайшов сьогодні ці слова, він сказав таке, я процитую: «Чорне море майже стало озером Росії. Якщо ми не будемо діяти зараз, історія нам цього не вибачить». Це слова Ердогана. Це було всього 3 роки тому. Я цим хочу сказати про те, що дуже багато проєктів, які можуть змінювати наміри, можуть удосконалювати підходи взаємодії між країнами. Але все одно найголовне те, що має бути між країнами. І про це дуже чітко сказав пан Бурçin. Мова йде про непорушення територіальної цілісності і уникнення агресії проти друг друга. Отже, для того, щоб зберегти баланс на Чорному морі, НАТО, напрацьовуючи свою стратегію, має максимально залучити дії конкретні по інших сферах взаємодії між державами. Я це хотів сказати.
Mr. Magheru, you want to say
I just
something?
wanted to add something. Thank you very much. Ever the last NATO summits, you can notice that there has been a balancing between the Baltic and Black Sea for a unitary approach to the eastern flank. And this is a real progress. Then you have measures on the ground, which are there, including, how to say, I won't get into the detail of what every country has, the commands and so on. But I think there is a real evolution. If we measure things as to the expectations and desires and what we have on the ground, I think we have to look at what has been achieved. And I will stay there because we are going ahead. Thank you.
Okay, we have one gentleman here with a question and anyone wants to speak after. We have the gentleman here, then Bruno, and there.
I just wanted to, I guess, add to this this question. You know, when people talk about a Black Sea strategy, based on the discussion, I almost feel like people are looking for a formula. Like if NATO does this, or if Russia does this, then NATO will respond in X way. And that's not how we work. You know, as I said earlier, if Russia were to incur on Romanian territory or Turkish territory, yes, we know exactly what we would do. But there is no formula for the Black Sea that would result in NATO taking some specific action based on a Russian action. And it's the same, frankly, in the Baltic Sea, if they're not incurring or carrying out an incursion to NATO territory. So I just want to make sure that's clear. The pursuit of a Black Sea strategy, if you think it's going to result in a guarantee from NATO, it's not realistic.
Bruno?
Yeah, quick question. So here's what puzzles me, and perhaps the panel has an answer. It sounds like any solution, any strategy to solve the conflicts needs to involve Russian buy-in, right? You will not create a long-term, stable security landscape without the Russians signing off on a security architecture. Otherwise, they will continue to break that architecture. But of course, understanding that we have totally different vision on what this security architecture is, so understanding that we are in total deadlock when it comes to debate and dialogue. Perhaps we have to stop thinking about strategic security and start thinking about practical security. And that brings me to what can we do to reduce risk? You know, what can we do in real practical terms to at least try to prevent that things like in the Azov Sea repeat themselves? I'm sure we don't have a magic formula. I definitely agree with John on that one, but what do we do practically to reduce risk? I would say that perhaps is a realistic approach.
To anyone particular? Bruno, you have a question?
Whoever feels courageous to answer it.
Whoever feels courageous. Who's courageous? It's about practical security and what to entail. Who?
Again, I can take that.
Okay, and then Mr. Chubarov also.
Вибачте за нахабність, бо питання дуже важливе. Воно є найголовне питання, від вирішення якого ми можемо знайти вихід з цієї великої кризи. Але в той же час, коли думаєш над відповідями, іноді дивуєшся тому, чому ми не можемо зрозуміти один одного. Бо здається, що і відповіді не так глибоко вони закопані. От дивіться, я зараз два приклади приведу. Один такі, які локальні дії, а другий глобальний. У 2018 році на територію окупованого Криму влітали тисячі літаків Російської Федерації. Різні компанії. Вони порушували наше законодавство України, яке спирається на резолюції ООН, що ця територія окупована. І російські літаки кожен день, 35-50, вони літають до Криму. Із цих сотень і сотень літаків, 175 літаків, борти, це конкретні борти літаків. Вони сідають в Сімферополі, на другий день вони літають в Брюссель, Париж і всі інші столиці. 175 літаків. А це наші партнери. Вони нібито прийняли рішення по санкціях. Якщо б були б конкретні дії до цих літаків, вже Росія і тут би мала б певні такі проблеми. Це додаткові витрати, тиск і тому інше. Це локальний такий приклад. Тепер глобальний, і на цьому я закінчу. 2014 рік. Баку. Парламентська асамблея ОБСЄ. Так звана Бакінська декларація, в якій написано, що з агресією проти України Росія порушила всі 10 основних принципів ОБСЄ. Більше немає. Вона всі зруйнувала. Це було у 2014 році. 5 років пройшло. Я буквально днями приїхав з Відня, де була чергова сесія. Росіяни себе відчувають дуже добре. Вони в ОБСЄ. Отже, відповідь в мене одна. Маємо змобілізуватися, щоб припинити цю агресію. Інших таких більш точкових рішень за невирішенням головної причини просто немає. Інакше, я вибачаюсь, я довго говорю, але все це вже було в 20 столітті. Те, що ми зараз обговорюємо в інших трошечки проявах, але воно було в 20 столітті. Вибачте.
Mr. Gönenli, you wanted to answer as well regarding practical security?
I think it's largely overtaken, but I should say that again it comes to predictability without compromising on our stance with regard to Crimea. Of course, when those things happen, then it's just carried to another dimension. But as Turkey, we are again trying to be helpful. So, for example, after the Kerch incident, our president immediately called his Ukrainian and Russian counterparts to offer our help. And the release of Ukrainian sailors is a constant theme, but again trying to avoid from escalation, from accident, try to prevent accidents is, I think, the immediate step that should be taken. And we should work together on that.
But that's an interesting point, actually. Do you think that Turkey can play a larger role as a mediator between Ukraine and Russia, considering that you have good relations with Kiev, with Moscow, and you also have kinship with the Crimean Tatars?
When need be, those messages are being transmitted, but obviously there are limits to what we can do with regard to Ukraine, the Crimea, and what's going on in Donbass, Luhansk, and other places. our policy is obvious, and we are with Ukraine in that regard.
I had one more question there as well. Sir, in the front.
Thank you. It will be just a comment, question, and recommendation, maybe short one. How we could use the possibility of the NATO, I mean the NATO strategy, to strengthen security in the region. We have a unique example of NATO representation in Ukraine. It's a public diplomacy, let's say, direction. This direction should be used more effectively and more broadly now. In Georgia, we also have now a kind of NATO liaison office with some special mission to develop also NATO public diplomacy activities. We should cooperate maybe on this level between Ukraine and Georgia as an example. We should to engage more possibilities from expert level, non-governmental actors and so on and so forth to elaborate some kind of common activities, our suggestions. And on this basis, then we should move further a little bit. It will be more easier way and not so contradictory as it was right now mentioned here. That's why it's a lot of things here. Just we should use what we have already at our hands. First of all, to full extent. Then you could move further, and it will be a kind of visible result. That's why it will be like a suggestion to here, because we have here a distinguished representative from NATO actively engaged in Ukraine. And just as an example and a suggestion from civil sector, try to communicate on this level, to engage as much as possible representation of the civil society. Because it was also a problem with this comprehensive approach, as it was mentioned by Mr. Chubarov. It's human rights aspects. And the basic level is a human security aspect. If you try to combine all the things under the umbrella of the human security as with public diplomacy, it will be the first steps in the right directions. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any more questions? No? I have about 10 more minutes, so I think about, some closing statements here. It's one more. Sorry, I don't see your hand there. Yes, lady over there.
Evgenia Gaber, Diplomatic Academy of Ukraine. I have a question for Mr. Burçin Gönenli. I'm just back from Turkey and I had an opportunity to take part in some conference there. And one of the experts, who is quite a well-known expert, expressed a very interesting point that at the moment for Turkey, the biggest threat in the Black Sea region is not actually Russia, but rather Romania and Bulgaria trying to bring more NATO, more warships, and thus being a threat of militarization of the Black Sea. So I wonder whether there is this understanding in Turkey that Russia is not only a threat to Ukraine or to Crimea, but basically to Turkey as well, because it tries to change the strategic balance in the Black Sea region in general, in military terms by its build-up in Eastern Mediterranean and in the Black Sea by militarization and nuclearization of Crimea, but also by undermining all those initiatives which were initiated by Turkey in early 1990s, like PSEC, like Black Sea 4, like Operation Black Sea Harmony, and so on. And it would be quite difficult actually to balance this growing Russian influence, not having NATO behind Turkey and acting on behalf of Turkey by itself, like tete-a-tete with Russia. And my second question is a very short one. What might be the reaction of Turkey in case of another act of aggression by Russia against Ukrainian ships in the Black Sea? Because in case of the Kerch Strait and actually Black Sea also, but that part like closer to the Azov Sea, it was a very mild statement by the MFA, like condemning the fact of the fire being opened against Ukrainian vessels, not even naming aggressor by name. So will we see probably a little bit different reaction in case something like this happens again in the Black Sea? Thank you.
These two questions, and then perhaps also some final thoughts about the eastern flank, how to reinforce it, how to make it better, what else we can do.
Okay, thank you for the questions. NATO, Romania and Bulgaria are our allies. Definitely not a threat. I wouldn't even pronounce such a thing. We have constant consultations. We have our agreed situations, including at NATO. So I think that was a very exaggerated and unrealistic comment. The immediate threat and our top priority at this point in time is fight against terrorism, which has been going on for over 30 years and which is taking a toll every day from the Turkish population. But this does not mean that the situation in the Black Sea or other parts or beyond our immediate neighborhood is less important. We are able to project power beyond our neighborhood, and we are very much looking forward to working with our allies in responding to those problems as they arise. For example, Turkey, in spite of the difficulties and problems it's having in the fight against terrorism and the constant threat currently emanating from Syria, is contributing to each and every NATO operation. And we are capable of carrying out our own operations and projecting power. And when it comes to the balances in the Black Sea, as I said, tit for tat is not a strategy. Not only for Turkey, but for other allies as far as we read, we see and understand. Therefore, we are trying to establish a common posture, a collective posture for deterrence, defense, and we should not be the ones to cause any escalation or trigger escalation, but we should be equally firm that in case of an escalation, we should be ready. So we are also partaking in those other efforts, including the readiness initiative. And the second question you pose is a speculative one. I wouldn't give a direct answer because it very much depends on the manner in which the incident takes place, where it takes place, etc. So. With your permission, I would refrain from giving a direct answer to that as it is too blurred.
So,
and as
mild response, will it be
by way of my final thoughts? There are different. We are going through a period in time which is unique and unprecedented as the Euro-Atlantic region. We are parts of it, and what we need at this point in time is working together. This is necessary because the challenges before us, not only against against the rules-based order, are taking below below the threshold of reaction that we are accustomed to, or, for example, Article 5 thresholds. So it makes it difficult to generate a common picture, generate a common understanding, and that's the struggle we are giving together. Actually, each of us, that's why we are having our own approaches, and we are trying to converge on the lowest common denominator, which may not be always sufficient, but that's where we are. And through consultations, through inclusiveness, we can just raise that bar to a higher level. And again, it comes to working together, consulting each other, and also solidarity and cooperation, as I said, which is very important, against all challenges. Coming to Black Sea and concluding with Black Sea was called by the Genoese, I think, as Mare Maggiore in ancient times, which means the Great Sea. It's not as great as it is compared to other domains. That's why we should be very careful in Black Sea, because there is no unique or a readily applicable solution for each different region. We have to respect the circumstances of each region. A specific action that might be feasible and effective, if, for example, in Mediterranean, may have very adverse and unintended consequences in the Black Sea. So, while trying to pursue a holistic, comprehensive approach, which is necessary at this age, we should also be sensitive to regional circumstances, dynamics. That's why, on the one hand, Turkey adheres to the decisions taken by NATO, taken by our allies and engaging partners, and we are fully supportive of the deterrence and dialogue vis-à-vis Russia. But on the other hand, that's why we are paying a special attention to maintaining and keeping alive the cooperative security mechanisms that Turkey established with lateral countries, because hopefully this situation, this tension will not last forever, and we will have to cooperate at some point. And until then, we should communicate. Thank you.
Mr. Chubarov, some final thoughts as well. You have painted a fairly grim picture, but does the future look even worse?
Війна Росії проти України розпочалася зі збройного захоплення Криму і спроби незаконної анексії. Звідти війна пішла на сход України. З неймовірними зусиллями, втратами тисячів українських життів, завдяки партнерам вдалося зупинити активні дії на сході України. Хоча це дуже відносно, кожен день там все одно стріляють і вбивають. Але війна не зупинена, вона не припинена. І тому вона, будь-яка війна має таку якість вириватися назовні. От вона вирвалася в Керченській протоці. Це не конфлікт. Це прояв цієї війни, яку Росія веде проти України. І в якийсь момент вона може вирватися там, де ми її не очікуємо. Бо ми не можемо, не зуміли ще зупинити цю війну. Оце є найголовніше, як на мене, висновок, який нас просто має далі мобілізувати, щоб знайти вихід. І ця війна, вона нависла загрозою над всіма. Вона ведеться в Україні, але вона загрозою над іншими народами, їх територіями, країнами. Отже, у нас немає жодного виходу. Це, як знаєте, такий дуже великий клубок протиріч. І можемо потягнути за будь-який кінець. Але можемо це робити роками і роками. Треба витягувати найголовніший, оцей кінець, щоб розпутати. І це є Крим. Це є окуповані території Донбасу. Отже, кардинальне рішення, я це знову і знову повторюю, змусити Росію повернутися в межі міжнародного права, зупинити війну і взятися знову за облаштування світу післявоєнного, не зруйнувавши ті принципи, які були закладені після Другої світової війни.
Finally, just Mr. Magheru, final thoughts as well about how you see the eastern flank in the upcoming, let's say, 5 years. Perhaps on a bit more cheerful note than what we've previously heard.
Well, I don't think I am a master of cheerfulness. I was thinking of what Honorable Mr. Chubarov was saying earlier, recollecting that, well, we shouldn't be living the darkest hours of the 20th century. So when Bruno Lété asked the question about what could be concretely done, in a punctual crisis, we are dealing now with, how to say, a major shift of the strategic balance in the Black Sea. Not only in the Black Sea, it's about the Eastern Flank, and we live a new datum, a new reality, which cannot be settled by individual punctual reactions. It is clear that you need coordinated, larger, if possible, global reaction to a global threat. I was thinking of Gulliver's Travels, and you have, you need the flexibility of multiple vision, because in one case you had Gulliver, how to say, in Lilliput, but he was tied up by, how to say, the multiple Lilliputans, and then you had him, I don't know, in Laputa or whatever, where he was the, I think this, what we are living through now entails pulling all our capacity of reflection together in the organized frameworks. But again, it was said here, you have the internal organization of NATO, so referring to what you can do for the members. Then you have the relation with the partners. And then you have third tier is relation with Russia, what mentioned as the dual track. What I said earlier at the beginning when you gave me the floor was that I think we have a semantic problem, because when there was a question asked about the strategy in the Black Sea and so on, it is, I think the result of this debate is to indicate that there are several strands. You don't have to put aside the European Union, because the European Union is the one directing, how to say, the resilience in terms of societal, economic, good governance, values, principles, and so on, which are identical to the NATO ones, but the interaction is directly. I will give you an example, if I think I'm not wrong. Before 2014, Ukraine's trade with the European Union was about more than 20%. Now it's more than 40%. So I think this is very significant. I am not in for the short, 5 years I think is short term. I think we are in for the long haul, and we need big thinking in order to get results. No one can do it individually with the kind of magnitude we are dealing with. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Concluding, we can see that it's all quiet on the Western Front, but on the Eastern Front, it's, shall we say, complicated. Guys, please give a big applause to our panel. And let me please invite Madame Oksana Zoltareva, who will close the whole Odesa talk debate. Press the button.
So, again, thank you everybody for being here with us for these almost 2 days. Thank you everybody who was listening to this very difficult but very interesting discussion. Thanks all the speakers. And of course, special thanks goes to organizing committee and all the partners from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who were organizing the event. I believe that we had 2 days of very complex, comprehensive, and very complicated discussion on a very timely question about the security issues in the Black Sea region. And the main conclusion, I believe, that comes after the event is that only being united we can overcome all the threats within not only Black Sea, but in the whole region. And so again, thank you. And now Bruno, please, representative of our brilliant organizing committee.
Okay. Also on behalf of GMF, also a few words. It is the end of this inaugural edition of the ODESA debate. I know I have thoroughly enjoyed it, meeting you, everyone. Mr. Ambassador already started quoting books, so let me also quote one of my books that I like a lot, because I was thinking about a specific novel while I was listening to the panels. It's called The Leopard from Giuseppe di Lampedusa, an Italian novelist. And I was thinking about that book for one specific reason. I'm not going to bother you with the plot, but somewhere in the middle of the book, when the situation seems to turn very critical, the main character famously says, "Things have to change to remain the same." And I think this quote is very symbolic also for the region here, because if we want Europe to remain whole and free, if we want Europe to remain the same, things perhaps have to change here in the Black Sea region. And these are the changes that we have been discussing over the past 2 days. Perhaps change is not the best word. Perhaps we can say continue to evolve, to adapt to the challenges that we face. I know a ready-made solution is not there, it's not at hand yet, but the last 2 days have definitely strengthened my belief that we are together, that we are here in this room thinking about solutions, that we are actually having initiatives and projects to at least address the situation. My own organization, the German Marshall Fund, we will continue to work in this region and support the inclusion of the Black Sea into the Euro-Atlantic structures. We do believe that Ukraine and the Black Sea countries are part of that bigger transatlantic family that faces its own changes and challenges. But I really believe that this event is instrumental to do so. And Odesa really is a very symbolic and historical place to bring us together, and a very beautiful city with a mild winter this year. It's very exceptional. We are willing, and we have a willingness to see you again next year, and hopefully have many more editions of this Odesa debate. I want to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for your support. I want to thank the Boumbourasfoundation as well. A special thanks to you, everyone, and to the speakers that were flying in to be with us. I want to thank also the volunteers that worked on the events and that were really the glue on the ground behind everything. And my own team as well. Sofia, thank you very much for all your efforts, and my other colleagues, Angelina, Esmeralda. Thank you, Dziękuję. For those that stay in Odesa, I hope to catch up tonight at the informal reception. And for everyone else, see you next year, hopefully. So thank you very much.